Hey guys, and happy Tuesday. Yes, happy Tuesday. Getting my days mixed up. So, yesterday we talked about horizontal and vertical lines, which were the two different types of slope that were zero slope and unidentified slope. But today we're going to talk about equations that have either a positive or a negative slope. So, when we're talking about slope, anything that has slope, slope-intercept, linear functions, all of that, we're talking about a function that is written in slope-intercept form. Okay, so this is the equation format. This is the graph format. So on a graph, you'll see that these lines have a specific slope, but in the equation, there's different parts. And we found how we can solve for slope, and that m stands for slope. And we were able to find our slope and our y-intercept from an equation. So if someone gave you an equation, y equals mx plus b, and there were numbers in place of the m and the b, that tells you important things, right? The number in front of the x is always your slope, and that tells you how you're moving on the graph. The number at the back, or the b value, tells you where to start. So you know where to start and you know how to move. And we were able to, by looking at this equation, we were able to move and start and make a graph. We haven't really graphed yet, but this was just a visual to show you what this means. So from the equation, you can figure out what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. But today, what we're going to talk about is how to find the equation from a point and a slope that's been given to you. So instead of them giving you the equation that has numbers filled in and you have to understand, well, if it's beside the x, it's slope. If it's at the end, it's the y-intercept. We're going to work backwards this time, and I'm going to give you points and a slope, and I want you to put it all together to give me the equation. So I'm going to read. I haven't finished these notes. They have been started, but as always, please pause the video to write things down if I'm moving too fast for you. And then you can just unclick it when you're ready to move on. So the title of this page is Writing Linear Equations from Point Slope Given. So I'm going to give you a point and the slope, and you should be able to give me the equation. And I'm going to tell you how to do that. So when a single point, or the ordered pair, right, is given to you, and it'll look like this. You've got the first number is your x value, the second number is your y value. This is called an ordered pair. And they give you the slope. So if it's like m equals a certain number, remember m stands for slope. If they give you those, then you can plug them into the equation and solve for b. So in this equation, if you have any y values that have been given or x values that have been given, they go in place of the x and the y. So normally you don't put anything there when you're just writing your equation. The only two numbers that you write are the m and the b. But if you're solving for the m or the b and you've got a point or an x and a y value, you do need to plug those in to solve for a missing part. So I wrote underneath it, only plug x and y into the equation when you're solving for a missing part. So I would see sometimes people who had been given a point and a slope, they would plug the point in, they would plug the slope in, they would solve for b, and then when they went to write the equation, they would put the y value and the x value back in the equation, which is not what needs to happen. Those need to go back to just being letters. So I'm going to give you an example of an equation already given and how you can figure things out, and then us making the equation in just a second. So in this example, y equals 2x plus 4. Okay, the slope is given, the y-intercept is given, so we don't need to plug anything in. We can look at this equation and figure out that our slope, or our m value, is 2, our y-intercept, or our b value, is 4. Okay, so I know how to move and I know where to start from. That's all you need to graph this equation. You need to know where to start and how to move. That's it. That's given. So in this equation, there's nothing I need to do. Everything has been given. But what if you have a problem where they give you the slope and just one point? And I said, write an equation for that, right? Some of us are like, I have no idea what to even do. Well, we know that the equation of the line, and I'll write it right here, the equation that we're trying to get is y equals mx plus b. That's the equation of the line. We need that. And all they gave us was this and this. So what I like to do is I like to come over here to the side and write out everything. Y, all of my letters, I guess. So all the letters in this equation are Y, M, X, and B. So I write Y, M, X, and B. And then I list it. Do I have it? Do I have a Y value? Well, they gave me my slope and 2 points. I know in this ordered pair that this is an X and this is a Y. So yes, I do have a Y value. It's 2, so I put it right here. Do I have an M value or a slope? Yes, they told me right here the slope is 2, so I put it right here. Do I have an X value? Yes, the other number in this ordered pair is the X value. It's 1. Do I have a B value? No. So that is what we're solving for. So in the equation, y equals mx plus b, I just plug in all the numbers that I can. Y becomes 2, m becomes 2, x becomes 1, and I don't have b. And so this is just like any other multi-step equation where you're solving for a missing variable. At this point, I multiply those two together. We distribute, get rid of that. It becomes 2. And then I have to get b completely by itself. So I subtract that 2 and move it over here, and b equals 0. So now I know that my starting point for this graph is going to be at 0, right at the origin, and my slope is 2. So when I go to write the equation, now I know that my slope and my y-intercept, those are the two things you need. You need the m and you need the b. So when I write this equation, do not plug in this 1 and this 2 anymore. We only do that when we're solving for something. Once we know it, those go away. Okay, so we go back to just keeping the y and the x. So we have y equals 2x plus 0. The reason that I have it written like this, I know that the m goes right here, mx plus b. And they told me up here that my slope was 2. I didn't even need to solve for that. I already knew it. So I plugged the 2 in place of the m, and the b that we solved for was 0. And you don't have to put this part. You would see it as this, y equals 2x. That means it has a slope of 2, and if there's nothing back here, you must just start at 0. So I'm going to do one more with you down here. We'll do it together so that you can see me working it out. So they said write an equation of a line with a slope of 4 and the point 216. So I know the equation of the line is y equals mx plus b. That's the equation they want me to write. So let's come over to the side and list out all of these letters. Y, M, X, and B. Okay, so those are all of the letters in this equation, and I need to figure out, do I have values for them all? Y. The y in this equation stands for any y values. In this little bit that they gave us, write an equation of a line with a slope of 4 and point 216. Is there any y value in there? Yes. Right there. That 16 is a y value. Out of this ordered pair, this is a y. So for my y value, I can write 16. Do I have a slope or an m? Yes, right here, slope of 4. So I have a slope of 4. Do I have an x value? Yes, I do. In this ordered pair, the other number that they gave me is an x value. So I have an x value of 2. Do I have a y-intercept or a starting point? No, so I don't have b. So that's the variable that I'm solving for. So when I come over here and I write this out, plug these numbers in place of the letters. So instead of writing y, I'm going to write 16 equals, instead of writing m, I'm going to write 4 times that x value. Instead of writing x, I'm going to write 2, and I don't know my b. So at this point, I'm going to distribute that. 4 times 2 is 8. I'm going to subtract that 8, bring it over to this side so that it's not there. And b equals 8. So now the two things you need to write this equation is your b and your m. That's it. We were able to use the x and the y that they gave us to plug it in and solve for that missing variable, but we don't need the x and the y anymore. So at this point, my final equation, y equals mx plus b. I'm going to plug in the m and the b that I just solved for. The m is 4. The b is 8. So this equation, I wrote it. We made this by using the slope that they gave us and one single point. We plugged it all into this equation except for b, and we got b by itself and figured out that b is 8. So if you were to take this equation and go to a graph, you would start at 8, right? This b is our y-intercept, so it's a number on the y-axis. So we would go up to 8 on the y-axis, and we would move up 4 over 1. That would be how we move. And in doing so, we would cross through this point. This is a point that's on that graph. This is the movement for that line. This is the equation of that line. So there's a lot of different ways that this information can be given to you. You might get, let's look back. You might get 2 points. From these 2 points, you can figure out what your slope is. And now guess what? You have slope and you have a point. You can plug this slope in as your m value. You can plug this x in as your x value and this x in as your y value, and you can solve for b. You can make an equation from 2 points by first solving for your slope and then using that with a single one of these points and solving your whole equation. So they might give it to you as 2 completely separate points, and you've got to figure it out from there. They might give you a graph, and we haven't gotten to the graphs just yet. They might give you a graph, and you need to say, okay, where does this line cross the y-axis? That'll be my y-intercept. And how is it moving? That's my slope. And you can make an equation from that. They may give you just an equation, and looking at the equation, you need to say, what is the slope? What is the y-intercept? The slope for this is -2. The y-intercept is 0. There's nothing back here. So they may give you the equation, and you can see that here in the notes that we took when we were looking at our function here. In this equation, it tells me my slope and my y-intercept. So you could get 2 points, you could get a graph, you could get an equation, or, like today's notes, they may give you a single slope and a single point. You can still find the equation from that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get this information and still know what your equation is and what your information is. There's tons of ways to do this, and we're going to continue going through all those ways. But again, like I said, this video might be a little hard to follow because, I don't know, it's just a little bit more in depth than what we've been doing lately. But I have faith in you guys that you'll follow along with me. So I'm going to leave these 2 examples right here on the screen as I go into your assignment for today. So in this example, just a quick review real quick. We did not need anything given to us besides the equation because we already know the start point and the slope. Those are the 2 things you need to graph a linear function, the start point and the slope. So if you can't see that in an equation, can you see that on a graph? Can you see where this line goes through the y-axis, and can you see how it moves? And if you don't have a graph and you don't have an equation, something will be given to you. So in today's example, what I gave you was the slope and a single point. Use your function here to plug those into the right places, solve for what's missing so that you can write your final equation in its most simplified form. Okay? Just like we did down here. We did this one together today. They told us the slope, they told us the point, we plugged it all in, and we solved for the one thing that was missing, our start point. You need a start point and the slope. Those are the 2 things you need for this equation to be complete. So you're going to have some practice problems to work on. Get those completed, get these notes down. I'll upload a copy of these notes if you like to print them out. Make sure you watched this video all the way through so you're not lost, and good luck on your work for today.